I just want to say how great it is to have East Coast games on the schedule. 6 o'clock, 6:30 p.m. start times. I mean, they're just fantastic. Especially for someone like me who does these videos right after the games. My sleep schedule gets all sorts of messed up after most of our Western Conference games. But these early start times, especially when the Hawks are winning them, just nirvana for me. If the Hawks decide to move to the Eastern Conference, I'd be all for it. And it wouldn't take much. Just a couple more expansion teams in the West. We got Seattle coming. We just need 2 more to get to 34. You like Houston and like freaking Alaska. We move over to the East. Everything's perfect. We're great. We get to rekindle our rivalry with the Red Wings. We can leave the Blues behind. We don't need them. Seriously, we don't need them. We join the rest of the original 6 teams. We can speak Francais a little more often. I mean, this is a love story waiting to happen.
Wow. You have to get up, do what they do. But that was insane. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Come on! I make go records, baby. I'm liking this.
Bonjour and welcome to another episode of Hawks Recap. Je m'appelle Clay. Thank you so much for tuning in. Seriously, merci beaucoup. Blackhawks just finished their 48th game of the season in Montreal, and they get the big victory over the Canadiens, 4-1. Don't need overtime in this one, which means the Hawks get 4 out of 4 points on this back-to-back. Third straight win for the Hawks. Things are feeling pretty good. Now, the Hawks had a couple things going for them for this back-to-back. Number one, it was a back-to-back. The Hawks have been pretty darn good on back-to-backs, especially back end of back-to-backs, which was tonight. But in addition to that, if that wasn't enough, the Hawks also deployed Robin Lehner against the Senators. He's basically unbeatable against his former teams, so that was just a lock for a win. And then in this game, they deployed Crawford in net, who is basically unbeatable in Montreal, his hometown. So that was a lock for a win. I mean, 4 out of 4 points was basically guaranteed before this back-to-back even started. And it seemed like the Hawks kind of learned a little something on their train ride over to Montreal. They said, you know what? Hey, what if we don't start slow? What if we start fast? Because they started slow in the Ottawa game. They went down 2 goals. This game was different. They started fast. And lo and behold, they get the early lead. And it was all thanks to the pure goal scorer for the Hawks, the insane sniping ability of a man called Zach Smith. Seriously, Zach Smith? A little under 6 minutes into the first period, Blackhawks shorthanded. Kajula with great forechecking pressure, just a ridiculously bad turnover by the Canadiens goalie Lindgren behind his net. Kajula takes it, just pushes it right out front to the slot. Zach Smith all alone, wide open net, and he snipes it home. The Hawks are up 1-0 with a nice little shorty. And then only a couple minutes after that, Blackhawks, even strength, have the puck in the offensive zone. It gets to Cuckoo at the point, and he finds the pure goal scorer in the slot. He puts a shot pass right on Zach Smith's tape, and he just redirects that perfectly into the top left corner. I mean, you couldn't place that tip any better. I don't care who's in goal. I don't care if the Montreal Canadiens were starting Carey Price in this one. He wasn't going to save that one. That was a perfect tip. And Zach Smith has 2 goals in the first period, and the Hawks are up 2-0. Unfortunately, it seems like Zach Smith has been learning some things from Dominik Kubalik, and the fact that neither player can find a way to get a hat trick. I mean, I don't know why we even employ these bums if they can't even do that. But nonetheless, Hawks are up 2-0. Now, in the latter half of the first period, the Canadiens would push back a little bit, but Crawford would make some big saves. The Blackhawks would hold, and they would take their 2-0 lead into the second period. Now, as we are all well aware, a 2-0 lead is not the greatest of leads. In fact, it's the complete opposite. It's the worst lead in hockey, and 54 seconds in, the Canadiens would show us why. Philip Deneau, former Chicago Blackhawk, would score to make this a 1-goal game, and the Hawks are trying to find a way to weather this storm that the Canadiens have put on early in the second period. Thankfully, the Hawks would get a little bit of help midway ththrough the second period. Max Domi, being the little pest that he is, tiptoes over the line just a little too far. Gets called for the penalty. Hawks go to the power play, and they would convert on it. Hawks with the puck in the offensive zone, get it on net, and there's a mad scramble in front. Loose puck in the crease. Goalie's down and out. I don't know how that puck didn't go in initially, but doesn't go in. Hawks get control of it behind the net. The goalie, Lindgren, loses his blocker and his stick. Now, if the Canadiens would have had control of the puck, or the puck would have gone out of the zone, or if there was like a corner battle with the puck or something where the puck's not really moving, then the refs probably would have blown this dead. But the fact that the Hawks had control, clear control, and were in a clear scoring opportunity, they weren't going to blow it dead, despite how much the Canadiens fans wanted to boo. This was the correct call. Thankfully, it benefited the Hawks this time. Hawks get it to Kane, who draws some defenders. He gets it to DeBrincat, and he basically just blows it into a wide open net with the goalie scrambling around. And the Hawks regain the 2-goal lead. It is now 3-1 midway through the second period. Now the Hawks would have a couple more opportunities, like golden opportunities, later in the second period to increase their lead to 3 goals. Doc had a great opportunity. He was unfortunately stoned. Kubalik had a great opportunity. He was shut down. And then Kujula had 2 golden opportunities in like a single shift, but missed the net both times, like wide open net. There's no in-between with Kujula. He's either going to snipe the puck or he's going to miss the net. There's no in-between. This time, well, these 2 times, he just misses the net. And unfortunately, Hawks can't get anything to go in those opportunities. And you just kind of hoped it wouldn't come back to bite them. Hawks take the 3-1 lead into the third period. Now, the Hawks didn't really come out all that great in the third period. First 5 minutes was pretty sloppy, lackadaisical, I thought, from the Hawks. Definitely gave an opportunity for the Canadiens to get back into this game, but thankfully the Canadiens didn't take advantage of it. Probably thanks to Crawford standing tall there a little bit. But Hawks kind of get that sloppy, lackadaisical play behind them, pick it up from there, and they would end up basically putting this game away thanks to Drake Kujula stripping the puck in the neutral zone, creating a turnover, picking it up himself, and going down and sniping it by Lindgren to make it 4-1. Kujula with the scoop and score here. Like I said, there's no in-between with Kujula. He is probably one of the most underrated shots on the team. It's just that, like, he misses the net so often we barely get to see it. But when he hits the net, it's like gonna be a goal. It's just a ridiculous snipe. And this one was no exception. Barring in, just scoop and score. 4-1 Hawks. And that's pretty much how this game would end. Canadiens would make a little bit of a push late in the third period, but this game was locked up by then. Plus Crawford is Crawford in Montreal, so he made some really good saves too to keep it 4-1. So the Hawks get a nice stress-free win in this one, which is something we can't really say a whole lot of this year, or the last couple years, really. Hawks win. They get the 4 points in this back-to-back. All's good. Now they get to go to Toronto to finish up their little Canadian road trip here. They start another back-to-back with that game in Toronto and then home against the Jets. It'll be interesting to see how they play against a little bit better quality of clubs. But thankfully, both those games are also 6 o'clock or early Eastern start time. So that's a win already, at least for me. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. Now, before I wrap this video up, I do want to touch base a little bit on the news of the week, news of the month, news of the decade, really. Gerard Gallant getting fired from the Vegas Golden Knights for purely performance reasons. That bamboozles me. At first, I thought there had to be something like he did off the ice, because we've seen that already this year. We've seen coaches get fired, and rightfully so. But this was a purely performance reason. The Vegas Golden Knights, yeah, they've lost their last 4 games, but they're 3 points out of first place in the Pacific Division. Like, really? They've gone to the playoffs the last 2 years. Been to the Stanley Cup final once. And were a ridiculously bad penalty away from advancing to another round in last year's playoffs. Really? You're going to fire Gerard Gallant? But at the same time, if you look at his coaching career, we should have seen this coming. Because he's been fired in the third year in every single coaching stint that he's had. Columbus, fired in the third year. Florida, fired in the third year. And now Vegas, fired in the third year. It's an interesting trend. Now, should the Hawks pick him up? That is a question a lot of teams are asking of themselves. Should our team pick them up? So should the Hawks pick them up? I think, and this is personal opinion, I think if the Hawks were doing a little bit more poorly than they are right now. You got to remember, the Hawks are on a pretty good run these last 15 games. They're starting to gel a bit, even with the injuries that they've had. If they were doing poorly over this stretch, I think it would be easier for the Hawks to get rid of Colliton and get Gallant in. But I think because of the way the Hawks are playing as of late, I think it makes it a little bit tougher for the Hawks, especially for Stan, who really wants to stand by Coach Colliton. But also, and I know that you may think, well, you got to go with a better coach. You got to get Colliton out of there, get Gallant in. And I get that. But at the same time, is Gallant the correct fit for the players on this team? Meaning, would he do well coaching a team of players or a core of players that have already won 3 cups? Would his personality, would he really fit this team at this point in time? Because you look at his coaching career, Columbus, Florida, Vegas, bunch of players, bunch of teams who haven't won a Stanley Cup before, let alone 3. Is Gallant a great coach? Seemingly so. Does he fit the Hawks? I don't know. Is it a good timing fit for the Hawks? I don't know. That's kind of the question I'm posing. I think that makes this situation a little bit tougher from the Hawks' perspective. But that's also why I'm not the one making these decisions. Let me know your thoughts on this down in the comments section below. Let me know your thoughts on the game as well. Thank you so much for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. Appreciate that as always. But most importantly, stay safe, make good decisions, and I'll see you next time.